Anger is a fire within, a force that surges in response to external events, clouding judgment and consuming reason. It arises from a perceived injustice, an unmet expectation, or a frustration that festers unchecked. Yet the wise do not fear anger, nor do they suppress it. Instead, they master it, recognizing it for what it truly is, an impulse, fleeting and controllable. Anger is one of the most disruptive and destructive emotions we can experience. The Stoics teach us that anger is not an inevitable response to external events but a judgment, a mistake in our evaluation of what is good or harmful. When anger takes hold, it clouds our mind, distorts our judgment, and forces us to act against our true nature. Leaves ruin in its wake. But when governed by discipline, it can be transformed into clarity, into unwavering resolve. The Stoics understood this. The harm of anger is not in the event that provokes it but in our undisciplined reaction to it. Anger does not happen to us, we allow it to take root. Seneca reminds us that while the world remains beyond our control, our responses are entirely our own. The first stirrings of anger may be instinctive, but what follows is within our power. Too often, we nourish our anger, feeding it with resentment, replaying slights in our minds until they swell into grievances too large to ignore. But the Stoic way is different. When anger rises, we must pause. Is this truly worth our peace? Do we control the situation, or do we merely rage against what is beyond us? Reason demands we choose the path that leads to mastery, not enslavement to emotion. Anger thrives in assumption. We believe ourselves wronged, yet rarely do we pause to consider the perspective of the other. We assume malice where there is often ignorance, spite where there may be misunderstanding. How many times have we erred? How often have we spoken thoughtlessly, acted rashly? Would we not hope for patience in those moments? The wise extend to others the same mercy they wish for themselves. By understanding our own fallibility, we soften the edge of our anger and replace it with reason. The power of patience. Patience is the antidote to anger. Seneca wrote, "The best cure for anger is to wait." In the grip of rage, we are unfit to act. Emotion clouds reason, and untempered action often leads to regret. But with time, clarity returns, and what once seemed intolerable shrinks into insignificance. When anger rises, step back. Breathe. Let time dull its sting. Then act, not from fury, but from wisdom. In patience, we regain control, and in control, we find strength. Mastering the inner battle. The greatest struggle is not against others but against ourselves. Anger, unchallenged, controls us. It dictates our words, our actions, our fate. But we are not slaves to impulse. The Stoic fights this battle daily, resisting the pull of emotion, choosing reason instead. When anger stirs, question it. Is it justified? Does it serve you? Will indulging it lead to wisdom or to folly? By engaging in this internal dialogue, we carve a space between stimulus and response, a space in which we are free. The liberation of forgiveness. To carry anger is to shackle oneself to the past. The wise do not bear grudges, they release them, for they know resentment harms only the one who clings to it. Marcus Aurelius declared, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." Forgiveness is not weakness. It does not excuse wrongdoing. It is a rejection of suffering, a refusal to let past injuries dictate present peace. To forgive is to reclaim control, to sever the ties that bind us to anger, and to move forward unburdened. Gratitude as a shield against anger. Anger flourishes where gratitude is absent. When we fixate on what is wrong, what has been taken, what has failed, we invite anger in. But when we turn our focus to what remains, to what is good, anger loses its power. Seneca reminds us that contentment is found not in accumulation, but in appreciation. In moments of frustration, pause and ask, what remains? What lessons have been learned? What can still be cherished? Gratitude dismantles anger, for it shifts the mind from loss to abundance. Letting go of entitlement. Anger often springs from expectation that life should conform to our desires. We rage when it does not, as though the universe has wronged us personally. But the Stoics teach that life is indifferent. It owes us nothing, and the wise expect nothing from it. Rather than curse misfortune, embrace it. Accept that discomfort, adversity, and change are inevitable. To expect life to be easy is to invite perpetual disappointment. The one who relinquishes entitlement is unshaken by the unexpected and immune to the frustrations of the world. The discipline of self-reflection. The examined life is the path to mastery. Each day, we must reflect, where did anger take hold? How could it have been avoided? What response would have been wiser? Marcus Aurelius counseled that we should retire into ourselves and scrutinize our actions. In this practice, we refine our responses, strengthen our discipline, and edge closer to mastery over our emotions. Anger is not defeated in a single battle but in the countless small victories of daily awareness. Anger as a tool for growth. Anger is neither enemy nor ally, it is a force, indifferent and powerful. Left unchecked, it consumes. But when tempered by reason, it becomes a tool. It fuels resilience, fortifies resolve, and sharpens wisdom. The Stoic does not seek to eliminate anger but to master it. Through patience, understanding, forgiveness, and reflection, we transform anger from a destructive impulse into a force for discipline and virtue. Mastery over anger is mastery over the self, and in that mastery lies true freedom. Anger is one of the most destructive forces a person can experience. It is not merely a momentary lapse in judgment, it is a fire that consumes everything in its path, leaving behind scars that time cannot erase. The damage it inflicts does not vanish with an apology, nor does it fade with regret. True destruction lies in its permanence, in the way it alters the course of lives irreversibly. Consider the story of a father and his son. A story not of wealth or power, but of human frailty. The father was a hard-working man, weighed down by the burdens of daily life. His son, innocent and eager, sought only his father's attention, his love, his acknowledgement. But the father, lost in his own turmoil, failed to see the moment for what it was. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, the father returned home, exhausted and irritable. His son, excited to share a simple drawing he had made, ran to him. But the father, blinded by fatigue and frustration, lashed out. He did not merely raise his voice or push the boy away. In his uncontrolled rage, he struck his son's face with such force that the boy stumbled, hitting his head against the sharp corner of the table. Blood pooled instantly. The room fell silent. The father, now staring at what he had done, felt his anger evaporate, replaced by a cold, sinking horror. He rushed to his son, calling his name, but the damage was done. The boy's vision blurred, and in the days that followed, it became clear, he would never see again. His father's anger had stolen his sight, his perception of light, color, and the world he had once known. Regret came swiftly, but regret changes nothing. The father wept, pleaded for forgiveness, promised never to let his emotions rule him again. But what use is self-restraint after the damage is irreversible? What words could return the boy's sight? What apology could undo blindness? The father had wounded not only his son's body but his soul, his trust, his future. Stoicism teaches us that emotions are fleeting, but the consequences of our actions are not. It is not anger itself that is the problem, but the failure to master it. The wise man does not allow emotion to dictate his actions. He does not lash out in frustration, for he understands that his impulse, however justified in the moment, may lead to ruin. The father, had he embraced this wisdom, might have paused. He might have taken a breath, acknowledged his frustration, and recognized that his son was not his enemy. The drawing in his son's hands was not an attack on his exhaustion, it was an offering of love, a plea for connection. But in failing to see this, he destroyed what could never be restored. Many believe that wounds heal, that time softens pain. But there are injuries that do not fade, and words that cannot be unsaid. A man must always be vigilant, for the damage wrought in a moment of fury can last a lifetime. Seneca echoed this idea in his writings, warning that anger is a short madness that destroys reason. When we yield to anger, we surrender our power over our own actions. The consequences of this loss of control can be dire. Not only do we hurt those around us, but we also scar our own soul. Like a wildfire that burns everything in its path, anger leaves behind damage that may never be undone. So when next anger rises in you, remember the Father and His Son. Ask yourself, is this anger worth the price I might pay? Am I willing to risk the irreplaceable for a fleeting release of rage? A wise man does not seek to master others, he seeks to master himself. And in doing so, he preserves what truly matters. How to control and deal with anger. 1. Acknowledge that anger is destructive. The first step in managing anger is recognizing that it's a destructive force. Anger spreads quickly, escalating even the smallest of frustrations into larger conflicts. In the heat of anger, we often act impulsively, saying or doing things we later regret. It clouds our judgment and makes it incredibly difficult to think rationally or act constructively. The Stoics understood that no matter how justified we may feel in our anger, it rarely leads to anything good. Anger disrupts our inner peace, and when we acknowledge its destructive power, we begin the process of detaching ourselves from it. By recognizing its dangers, we open the door to controlling it rather than letting it control us. 2. Learn what triggers your anger and stop it early. One of the best ways to manage anger is by becoming aware of your triggers. Everyone has different things that set them off, whether it's a certain behavior, situation, or person. Practicing mindfulness and meditation can help you become more attuned to these triggers. By learning to spot the early signs of anger, you can take action to stop it before it escalates. Do you notice your heart rate rising or your thoughts becoming more intense when you're angry? These are signals that you're about to lose control. When you spot these early signs, you can use techniques like deep breathing, stepping away, or counting to 10 to regain your calm before the situation spirals out of control. 3. Make the attainment of a calm mind your biggest goal. To the Stoics, tranquility, the ability to remain calm and rational regardless of external circumstances, was the highest form of emotional mastery. They believed that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Anger, by nature, disturbs our tranquility, robbing us of clarity and peace. Therefore, we must make the pursuit of a tranquil mind our highest goal. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or suppressing emotions, rather, it means learning how to handle them with composure and calmness. When we prioritize tranquility, anger loses its grip on us, and we regain the ability to navigate life with patience and reason. 4. Use music and art to control your mood. Art and music are powerful tools for relaxation, and the Stoics recognize the importance of engaging with beauty and creativity to restore balance to the mind. When anger surges, sometimes the best way to cool down an explosive temper is to immerse yourself in something calming. Whether it's calming music, visual art, or even nature sounds, the key is to have these outlets readily available when stress begins to build. Music, in particular, has been shown to calm the nervous system and soothe the mind. Instead of letting frustration take hold, use these creative expressions to bring peace to your mind and help release the anger that is building up. 5. Surround yourself with people that won't make you angry easily. If you are prone to anger, one of the most effective ways to manage it is by carefully choosing the company you keep. Some people may provoke you with their teasing, criticism, or just negative energy, fueling your irritation. To reduce the chances of falling into anger, surround yourself with people who uplift you and who understand your desire for tranquility. By associating with individuals who share your values and support your efforts to remain calm, you create an environment that minimizes triggers for anger. The right friendships can help you practice patience, empathy, and understanding, qualities that are essential for managing anger effectively. 6. Avoid assumptions. Assumption, when paired with anger, can be a dangerous combination. Sometimes, we fuel our anger by obsessing over what someone said about us or looking for ways to validate our frustrations. This impulse to gather information that disturbs our peace only perpetuates the cycle of anger. Instead, resist the urge to seek out things that will disturb your tranquility. Often, the information we think we need to know only increases our anger and anxiety. By ignoring this impulse and focusing on maintaining your peace, you prevent unnecessary conflict and keep your emotional well-being intact. 7. See yourself in the offender view. When someone else causes us anger, it's easy to view them as the problem. But this mentality only fuels resentment. A key Stoic practice is to see ourselves in the offender. We've all made mistakes, acted out of turn, or said things we regret. By recognizing our own flaws, we create empathy for others. When you feel anger rising towards someone, take a step back and reflect on the times you've acted in ways that might have caused harm to others. This shift in perspective helps us realize that everyone is human, and we are more alike than we are different. By practicing this empathy, we reduce the intensity of our anger and build a more balanced approach to conflict. 8. Don't seek reasons to be angry. It's easy to fall into the trap of looking for reasons to be angry. When we're already frustrated, our minds tend to focus on things that irritate us, seeking out every possible offense. This mental pattern can spiral, amplifying our anger and turning minor annoyances into major grievances. Instead, make a conscious effort to resist this tendency. Shift your focus away from the negative and find reasons to remain calm. Practicing gratitude can help you reframe your perspective. When you stop searching for reasons to be angry, you break the cycle of frustration and regain control over your emotional state. 9. Conquer yourself and master self-control. The greatest struggle is not against others but against ourselves. Anger, when left unchecked, controls us. It dictates our words, our actions, and our fate. But we are not slaves to emotion. The Stoic fights this internal battle daily, resisting the pull of impulse and choosing reason instead. When anger stirs within you, engage in an internal dialogue. Question it: is this anger justified? Does it serve you? Will indulging it lead to wisdom or folly? By questioning our emotional responses, we carve out a space between stimulus and reaction, a space where we are free to choose how we respond, and where true mastery lies. 10. Practice patience. One of the most effective Stoic strategies for anger management is simply to wait. When you feel anger surging, don't act immediately. Take a moment, count to 10, or step away from the situation. Marcus Aurelius once advised, when you are angry, count 10 before you speak, if very angry, 100. This is not merely a method for delaying speech, but a call to pause and reflect. In that moment of stillness, we have the opportunity to question our initial judgment: is this anger truly warranted? What is it that I fear or resent about this situation? The Stoics remind us that what troubles us is not the event itself but the story we tell about it. The Stoics knew that our initial emotional responses are often clouded by instinct and impulse. By allowing time for the anger to pass, we regain control over our actions. Waiting offers an opportunity to let the rational mind take over while our emotional reactions subside. In most cases, you'll be grateful that you took a moment to calm down before reacting. 11. Develop tolerance. Tolerance is a Stoic virtue that allows us to remain calm in the face of imperfection. It doesn't mean accepting bad behavior or letting people walk all over us, but it does mean not allowing every slight to provoke us into anger. People will disappoint us, but our response to that disappointment is within our control. Developing tolerance helps us maintain emotional equilibrium, respond with patience instead of aggression, and navigate the world with greater understanding, rather than frustration. 12. Focus more on healing rather than punishing. When someone wrongs us, our instinct may be to seek revenge or to punish them in some way. However, Stoicism teaches us to focus on healing, not hurting. Rather than retaliating, consider how you can help the person who has wronged you. This mindset allows you to retain your emotional balance, prevent the cycle of anger and retaliation from continuing, and maintain your integrity. By choosing healing over punishment, you put yourself in a position of strength and emotional control. When anger arises, take a moment to reflect on what you can be grateful for in that situation. Often, the challenges we face in life offer valuable lessons. By choosing to see the growth opportunities within adversity, we transform anger into appreciation. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, reducing the emotional charge of anger and helping us find peace. 13. Become independent. One of the most important Stoic practices is learning to live without luxury or excessive comfort. When we become dependent on the external world for our happiness, we invite frustration and anger when things don't go as planned. Instead, embrace life's imperfections. Accept that discomfort, inconvenience, and conflict are part of the human experience. When you stop expecting the world to cater to your desires, you free yourself from the anger that comes with unmet expectations. Epictetus taught that we have absolute control over our responses, even if we cannot control external events. We may not be able to stop the driver who cuts us off or the friend who disappoints us, but we can choose how we interpret and react to these events. By shifting our focus from blaming external circumstances to examining our inner judgments, we regain the power to act with wisdom rather than with fury. The Stoic approach to anger involves 3 essential practices. Pause and reflect. When you feel anger rising, pause. Allow yourself a moment to breathe deeply and observe the emotion without judgment. Ask yourself, what is the root of this anger? Is it based on facts or on my own interpretation? Daily self-reflection is an essential Stoic practice. Take time each day to reflect on your actions, thoughts, and emotions. Reflect about what triggered your anger, how you responded, and how you can improve. This habit of self-awareness helps you identify patterns in your behavior and develop strategies for managing anger more effectively. By making self-reflection a regular habit, you refine your emotional responses, gradually growing into a more balanced and peaceful person. 1. 2. Reframe your perspective. Recognize that anger is a signal, a warning that your mind has misvalued something. Instead of viewing an annoying event as a personal attack, see it as an opportunity to learn self-control. Replace thoughts of, "this is intolerable," with, "what can I learn from this moment?" 3. Focus on what you can control. The Stoics remind us that we are masters of our inner world. While we cannot always change the actions of others, we can choose our response. This shift, from reacting impulsively to responding deliberately, is the essence of Stoic wisdom. Anger, if left unchecked, creates a cycle of regret and bitterness. Its aftermath is not merely a series of harsh words or impulsive actions, but a lasting impact on our relationships and our inner peace. True strength lies not in the force of our anger, but in the quiet power of self-control. As you walk your own path, remember that every moment offers a choice. When anger beckons, choose to pause, reflect, and respond with wisdom. In doing so, you not only preserve your own inner tranquility but also contribute to a more compassionate, understanding world. This reflection is meant to serve as a reminder that while anger is a natural human emotion, we are not slaves to it. Through the practice of Stoic principles, we can learn to master our passions and live with a clear, rational mind. In conclusion, anger is a natural emotion, but it is one that can be controlled. Through practice, mindfulness, and Stoic wisdom, we can transform anger into something constructive. By focusing on tranquility, empathy, patience, and self-mastery, we reduce the power that anger holds over us, ultimately leading to a more peaceful and fulfilling life. The Stoic approach teaches us that we are not victims of our emotions but masters of our responses, and in that mastery lies true freedom. If you find this video useful and impactful, kindly subscribe to this channel and share this video to your friends.